samplutaha. Ladies, pulaka udbhina, bodily changes of transcendental ecstasy. Sarava angaha, every part of the body. Munchan, smearing. Milat, opening. Drisha, by the eyes. Shuchaha, tears of grief. Purna, artha, complete achievement. Lakshetaha, thus observed. Tena, by Vidura. Sneha, prasara, extensive love. Samplutaha, thoroughly assimilated. It was so observed by Vidura that Uddhava had all the transcendental bodily changes due to total ecstasy, and he was trying to wipe away tears of separation from his eyes. Thus, Vidura could understand that Uddhava had completely assimilated extensive love for the Lord. Purport. The symptoms of the highest order of devotional life were observed by Vidura, an experienced devotee of the Lord, and he confirmed Uddhava's perfectional stage of love of Godhead. Ecstatic bodily changes are manifested from the spiritual plane and are not artificial expressions developed by practice. There are 3 different stages of development in devotional service. The first stage is that of following the regulative principles prescribed in the codes of devotional service. The second stage is that of assimilation and realization of the steady condition of devotional service. And the last stage is that of ecstasy, symptomized by transcendental bodily expression. The 9 different modes of devotional service, such as hearing, chanting, and remembering, are the beginning of the process. By regular hearing of the glories and pastimes of the Lord, the impurities in the student's heart begin to be washed off. The more one is cleansed of impurities, the more one becomes fixed in devotional service. Gradually, the activities take the forms of steadiness, firm faith, taste, realization, and assimilation, one after another. These different stages of gradual development increase love of God to the highest stage. And in the highest stage, there are still more symptoms, such as affection, anger, and attachment, gradually rising in exceptional cases to the Mahabhava stage, which is generally not possible for the living entities. All these were manifested by Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the personification of love of God. In the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu by Srila Rupa Goswami, the chief disciple of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, these transcendental symptoms displayed by pure devotees like Uddhava are systematically described. We have written a summary study of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu entitled The Nectar of Devotion, and one may consult this book for more detailed information on the science of devotional service. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Nama Shreshtham Manam Api Shachi Putram Atra Swarupam Rupam Tasyagrajam Urupuring Maturim Goshtavartim Radha Kundam Girivaramaho Radhika Matavasham Prapto Yasya Pratita Kripaya Shri Gurum Tamnatosmi Bandeham Shri Guru Shri Ataf Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavangscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamscha Guru Vaishnav Bhagavan Tina Smarane Hoy Bigna Binashan Anayashe Hoy Nijavanchita Puran Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Describing the ecstasy of Uddhava as observed by Vidura. Now we're all used to this concept, but it will be surprising for those who are new in devotional service to hear that his ecstasy was in his pain, shuchaha, tears of grief. Pain is the greatest ecstasy. That the gopis quoted from the example of Pingala, Nairasha Paramasukha, disappointment is the greatest happiness. It sounds contradictory. That is the fact in the spiritual existence at the highest stage, which is being exhibited by Uddhava. And we are supposed to, by hearing about Uddhava, gain the desire to follow in his footsteps and become like him. Uddhava, Vidura, there are so many described in Bhagavatam, their loving feelings for Krishna. So we are supposed to come to that stage. We're now in the conditioned stage, but we are here to develop love of Krishna. Develop, more accurately, to recover our dormant love of Krishna. Srila Prabhupada warns in this purport not to artificially try to express symptoms of love of God. He writes about artificial expressions developed by practice. But then Srila Prabhupada goes on to explain there's another kind of practice by which we can actually come to that stage. We may think, well, love of Godhead, that's the goal. What's it like? Okay, you cry, you shiver, you fall on the ground. Okay, let's do it. But it's not possible to, simply by showing the symptoms, to actually have the same feeling in the heart. An actor on a stage can very feel it, it invokes feelings in the audience. A good actor can invoke, that's the whole point, to invoke feelings in the audience, but it's just a show. He'll be on the stage, two people will be shouting and insulting and fighting as if to kill each other. Then they'll go backstage and they'll be laughing and joking. It's just a drama, that's all. We have in Chaitanya Bhagavatam a narration of how Haridas Thakur was in complete ecstasy, and everyone was, the local people were appreciating his symptoms of ecstasy. And a Brahmin was there who was not very happy that this Haridas, who's from a Muslim background, is being so much praised, and he thought, well, they can praise me too. So then he started imitating the symptoms of Haridas, and then a snake charmer or whatever, he started beating. He was someone whose whole body was taken over by the spirit of a snake, started beating. You don't beat a Brahmana, but he did, because he was just cheating. And the Brahmana felt the pain. And whereas Haridas, when he was actually beaten very severely, he didn't feel any pain at all, because he was so absorbed in chanting Hare Krishna. So if you think that someone is imitating, you could try beating them and see what their reaction is. But it's not recommended. We have I recorded that in Bhaktisiddhanta Vaibhav, that one person, he was imitating these symptoms, but in the presence of Gauriya Mat devotees, and they just ignored him, that's all. They just ignored him. And he was in the hot sun, and even some ants came and started biting him, but he just made a show as if it was all, as if he was absorbed. Eventually he just got up and walked away disappointed. So it's not for imitation, it is for emulation, to gradually come to that stage. And Srila Prabhupada writes about following the regulative principles prescribed in the codes of devotional service. How many times Srila Prabhupada emphasized this? If we read Srila Prabhupada's letters, when he sent letters accepting disciples for initiation, he would always write, follow the four regulative principles, rise early, associate with devotees, regularly discuss the topics in the class, go for Sankirtan. When he was writing to temple presidents and GPC members, again and again and again, he would say, follow these principles, you have to do it personally, show by example. In one letter, Srila Prabhupada wrote that the first duty of the GBC is to see that all the members are following all these principles, rising early, following the four regulated principles, and said by leading by example, they should set example. Again and again and again, Srila Prabhupada wrote about this. In the beginning, Srila Prabhupada was very liberal with initiation, but he became more strict, and he instituted this program that devotees have to follow to help keep them on track, seeing that so many fell away. Adhikari Prabhu, when he arrived here, gave a short talk, and he was entreating the devotees, now you're here, very good, now stay for life. How are you going to stay for life? Well, we have to, how do you stay alive? Stay for life means you have to stay alive, right? So we stay alive in Krishna consciousness by following all these principles. Srila Prabhupada he expressed several times that he was not very confident of success in spreading Krishna consciousness when he came to the West, because he cited his godbrother, that was Goswami Maharaj, who had met one big lord in England, Lord Ronaldshay, Earl of Zetland, and the Lord, who was very, here I'm talking about the Lord, not Krishna, but Lord Ronaldshay, he had been in India, and he was very sympathetic to the Gauriya Math cause. He'd been government, British Empire duty in India. So he was very sympathetic to the Gauriya Math. But one time he jokingly asked Goswami Maharaj, "Can you make me into a Brahmana?" A Brahmana is very high status in society at that time in India. And Goswami Maharaj said, "Yes. All you have to do is no meat eating, no gambling, no illicit sex, no intoxication." And Lord Roland says that's impossible. This is our whole life. So Srila Prabhupada said, I wasn't very hopeful that I could have success, but let me try anyway. Sometimes he said, well, when he made that poem, what is that? I'm just trying to think of the words. That he said that the holy names will spread by the desire of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Bhaktisiddhanta, so it will spread. But it seems that he wasn't fully confident that it would be through himself, that it would happen with himself. That's what I surmise from his various statements. Because he didn't think the Westerners could follow these four regulative principles. After some time, around 1968, Srila Prabhupada instituted the morning program. In Los Angeles, prior to that, devotees had been going out every night till about 1 o'clock in the morning on Harinam because so many people come. And they would come for enjoyment. They go out on Hollywood Boulevard, I guess, whatever it is. And they'd come back late and get up late. There was no concept of rising early, and then Srila Prabhupada instituted 4:30 in the morning Mangalarti. It was a big shift. And then regular Bhagavatam class, japa period, otherwise just you have to chant your 16 rounds within 24 hours. So it was a big shift, and he instituted deity worship. And this was for helping devotees to remain steady in Krishna consciousness and to regularly progress. And in those letters, Srila Prabhupada would often write, if you just follow these principles throughout your life, you can become a fully pure devotee and go back to Godhead in this very life. So this stage is to be attained. That's the whole purpose of why of course we may say we're here for preaching, but heal thyself. In one letter, Srila Prabhupada gave a whole letter about how we should be preaching, giving Krishna consciousness to others, and he ended the letter by saying, but the highest realization is to save yourself. First of all, save yourself. We're going out saving the world, but we have to keep ourselves strong also. So this program is there, and Srila Prabhupada insisted on that, and he would speak daily on the philosophy of Krishna consciousness. And sometimes devotees say that, well, some kind of devotees say that, well, Srila Prabhupada, he just spoke very basic things, and we have to go above. Yes, we do. We have to go up and up and up and up. But at the same time, we have to see that we need the basic food also, basic spiritual sustenance. We have to hear again and again and again that we are the eternal servants of Krishna. We are meant for serving Krishna because we have deeply rooted in our hearts since time immemorial the spirit of enmity to Krishna. So we have to hear again and again and again that we're simply meant to be servants. We have to follow the regulative principles. And Srila Prabhupada would speak the philosophy. He had a great ambition to deliver everyone back to Godhead, to change the world. Everyone should be like Uddhava. Change the world, that everyone would be Krishna conscious. So the whole mode of living, the whole attitude of how we see the world, Srila Prabhupada wanted to replace that. Attitude of how we see the world, we're indoctrinated in the schools and by the whole society around us and by the TV, now it's the internet. And the basic message we all pick up is Ishvaro ham aham bhogi. We're all here to lord it over the world and enjoy it. This ecstasy of Uddhava, the basis of that is his knowing and completely identifying himself as a servant of Krishna. It's not artificial. We may think, yes, Krishna is very beautiful, everything about Krishna consciousness is very sweet, but the spirit of service is the entrance into love of Krishna. Definitely Krishna is all attractive. So everyone will be attracted to Krishna. And Srila Prabhupada wanted beautiful temples, beautiful deity worship, so that everyone, even without any background of Krishna consciousness, unless they're demoniac, they will be, unless they're very demoniac, simply by seeing the beautiful form of Krishna, they'll be attracted. Srila Prabhupada especially emphasized that in India. I'm told that Western people have an allergy to deities, or they can't relate to it whatsoever. Maybe. I don't know. I see in the Catholic culture, they have a very similar thing. In Italy, for instance, they'll take around what they call statues of our, what is it called? Our Lady, with garlands on, and they'll have the frankincense, and they'll be singing songs, and Protestant culture is maybe, they're anti, and their churches are plain and dull, and they're anti-idols, and they're anti pretty much everything except making a lot of money. The Protestant ethic is very materialistic. Make money. If you make money, it's a sign that God loves you. But I'm not sure that Westerners are all turned off by deity worship. Is that another myth that's been propagated? I don't see that people... How many are even coming to our temples anyway? But the point is we're steeped in our own cultural moorings, and we think that the way I think, which is the way everyone around me thinks, must be right. Right? If you're born in a place where everyone thinks they have the same basic worldview, then you think that must be right. And it's reinforced in the school that there was a big bang, and then there were lots of little bubbles, and out of the bubbles came some life forms, and they gradually formed into aquatic animals in the sea, which was just the right temperature, and they got onto the land, and then they gradually became Americans, so humans. So that's the story, and everyone believes it, because everyone believes it. It must be right if everyone believes it. And if someone comes along and says, hey, wait a minute, that doesn't seem right, and there's evidence that is wrong, then you become a fool and reject it. So Srila Prabhupada, in getting the devotees to follow the four regulated principles, that's not easy. But to get devotees to change their whole mindset. I had a great education in the 1980s in Bangladesh, most educational time of my life. In a worldly sense, of course, when I came to Srila Prabhupada's lotus feet and started reading his books and hearing the philosophy, that's Tanmanye adhitamuttamam. This is the topmost learning, as Prahlad told Hiranyakashipu. But prior to that, I'd been in India for some time, but really in Bangladesh I had to be out in the villages among so many uneducated people. And I got an education that the way I thought as a Britisher is not intrinsically. I didn't even know I was thinking as a Britisher. I was thinking as a devotee, but how much my conditioning was there. It was a painful re-education that people can live in different culture, different outlook. But actually that's what we want to do. We want to change it. Change the world means change the whole outlook on life, that we're living this life. It's one of many lives. It's not the only life. This body is not me. In Vedic society, that point that this body is not me it's there, but it has to be reinforced. Otherwise, the strong tendency is to think, I am this body. We see even Arjuna, Krishna spoke to him in the beginning of Bhagavad Gita, telling him, we're not the body. It wasn't the first time Arjuna heard it. He's a cultured Kshatriya, and especially being with Yudhishthira in the forest, especially during that time, Yudhishthira was actually quite happy in one sense, because he had time to discuss with all the rishis, and they'd be speaking spiritual knowledge day and night for years. So it wasn't anything new for Arjuna. But Krishna was reinforcing that. Otherwise, the tendency is to lament, even knowing what is correct. We lament for the body. We have in the beginning of the 7th canto, Yamaraj. Actually, it's Hiranyakashipu telling a story about Yamaraj, who went in the form of a child when the king of Ushina was killed in battle, and all the wives of the king and all the ministers and citizens, they were all lamenting that he's passed away, and what will we do without you? And Yamaraj, in the form of a child, came and gave them spiritual instruction. Now, they must have known theoretically that this body is just another body that has died and the soul has gone on. But Yamaraj had to say that, had to tell them. And then they accepted it. Oh, okay. They didn't have to be educated, the whole thing right from they knew it, but the tendency is to forget. So it has to be reinforced again and again and again and again so that we can fully imbibe. Here it's stated, Sneha prasara samplutaha, extensive love thoroughly assimilated. That was observed by Vidura in the personality of Uddhava. We have to thoroughly assimilate the message of Bhagavatam as received in the parampara from Srila Prabhupada, and there's a process to do that. We want to go back to Godhead. The example is given, Kshurasya dhara nishita duratyaya. It's like a razor's edge. Durgang patas tat kavayo vadanti. Well, first of all, we should understand what a great opportunity it is. Utishtata, jagrata, prapya, virang nibodhata. Get up, wake up, become aware of the great opportunity that we have in human life. Then, kshurasya dhara anishita duratyaya durgang patas tat kavayo vadanti. It's a great opportunity in human life. At the same time, it's like a razor's edge, a difficult path to traverse. So the razor's edge that can be given, that understanding, one way of understanding it's a very fine path. We have to go out of this material world up to Krishna. I always wondered with the moon shots, how you're going to shoot a big firework, these rockets, so precisely that they're going to go to the moon. Because, of course, there may be calibration as you go, but it has to be really precise, because just like if I had a gun and I want to shoot that bell there, you have to be a pretty good shot just to get it exactly right. If you're not exactly correct, then you're going to miss. So if we're talking about shooting from Cape Canaveral, Cape Kennedy, all the way up to the moon, which is supposed to be 220,000 miles away, I think, according to their statement, it's got to be absolutely correct. If it's 0.0001 of a degree off, you're going to miss, right? So we're aiming to go back to Godhead. We have to be on the right path. We may have a general idea. Okay, there's the moon. Okay, shoot your firework that way, but it has to be absolutely in line from the start. And when we're going, there has to be correction also, but that correction has to be very fine so we stay on the right path. Otherwise, we miss. And we can go on doing that life after life, keep on missing. So many children are born to devotees, and we can understand from their previous life they're devotees. How long is it going to go on? Then again they're going to be devotees, and they're going to be chanting Hare Krishna, and they're going to have their tattoos and their muscles, and they're going to get born again, and again chanting Hare Krishna all their lives. They're going to get born again in a devotee family, and again, same story. How long will it go on like this? And we'll hear about Uddhava, not so much, more about the gopis, and like it. We like to hear it. Well, that's it's a great fortune if we like to hear about the gopis, but to actually become like them, we have to go exactly on the right path. And I saw that point that Srila Prabhupada, he gave all these principles, and he also gave the whole philosophy. It has to be understood very clearly, because if we tweak it a little bit, then we're not going to get the same result. Fine-tuning, tuning into the radio station. Now people won't understand this, but there used to be radios with knobs. I don't know if any of you even saw that. And you're trying to get the radio station, and just it has to be exactly right to pick it up. And if the dial is not exactly in the right position, then you get some other station, or you miss it. And some of them it's very, very fine, those radio stations which are far away or don't have a strong signal. So getting on the right path, staying on the right path, and we'll go back to Godhead. But if there's a little tweaking, then we won't, that's all. The tendency is to tweak. The tendency is to try to make things a little easier for everyone. You don't have to be fully Krishna conscious. Even if you're 75%, 45%, we've heard this. It's a quote from someone. It's not what Prabhupada said. Prabhupada said you have to be completely free of all desires to go back to Godhead, because if you still want to eat vegan pizza or whatever, it used to be sweet balls, but now it's become vegan pizza. If you have a material desire to do that, then you're going to have to come back, because they don't have vegan pizzas in Krishna Loka. At least we don't hear any descriptions of that. In fact, if you want to be a vegan, there's no way you're going to go to Vrindavan. No way. But these things, they enter. It makes it easy. It makes it easier to remain in this broader society among us. But we don't want to remain in this broader society among us. If we're going to be Krishna conscious, it's declaring war against the material energy, and it's walking on the less trodden path, which is a phrase I learned from Kundali Prabhu, quoting Eric Fromm, who, if you haven't heard of, you're fortunate. Another atheist ideologue. Take the less trodden path. But we're doing that. We're taking a path. It's different to that of the karmis. Their ideas we should understand. They're wrong. Even when they talk about the right things, they're wrong. They talk about love and compassion, but they're wrong, because their love and compassion means how to lovingly and compassionately keep people in material existence. And with the best intent, they'll tell you, don't be Krishna conscious. Because they really want the best for you. With all my heart, I'm telling you, just don't do this. Or they may not say it directly, but in an indirect way. They got the wrong idea. So their love and compassion, it's not only not love and compassion, but it's the opposite to love and compassion. Because if it drags us away from Krishna. So we have to be very careful. Razor's edge. Razor also. If we're shaving and we're not careful, then we get cut. Razor is very useful for taking out the stubble, the unwanted, the anarthas, but if we're not careful, we'll harm ourselves also. So sadhu savdhan, be careful. Let us hear about Uddhava, as Srila Prabhupada has recommended in this purport. We can consult Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. It's a book full of all the bliss and the nectar of love of Krishna, but it starts off with defining what is pure devotional service, why pure devotional service should be taken up, how it should be taken up, and warns against artificial practice of Krishna consciousness. So a very important book. Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Srila Prabhupada summarized it in The Nectar of Devotion. Hare Krishna. Any questions or comments, please? You can distribute this book also. You're doing that, Nectar of Devotion. Mm. Mm.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. So if someone's really bad at shaving, they might conclude that it's better to just grow out your beard rather than use.
If someone's bad at shaving, better grow a beard. Yeah? Then go to hell. Or you can learn to shave properly. Or actually, the Vedic system is that you don't shave yourself anyway. The barber shaves you. This self-shaving is invented by Wilkinson Sword and these companies. Otherwise, no one shaved themselves, even in the West. No, they would get shaved. They wouldn't shave themselves. That's the point. We always see pictures of the 6 Goswamis and the associates of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu all as if they're clean shaved, but most of the time they wouldn't be, because you shave once a month is the standard. Unless you have a beard. It's also acceptable to have a beard. Yeah, in the beginning, Srila Prabhupada said you either shave regularly or never shave. And just go on and on and on. And we see sadhus, they have beards, but then it's all tangled up like that. But then later Srila Prabhupada said it should be regularly shaved at least once a month.
So it's better to try in devotional service than... It's better to try and fail in...
It's better to try in devotional service. Of course, this shaving analogy, you can't... It's an analogy, not that you can... You have to put everything in devotional service and squeeze it into that analogy. It's just stressing the point that we have to be careful. That doesn't mean you have to say, so what's taking prasadam got to do with shaving? It's just an analogy, that's all. Yeah, Adhikata Prabhu. Analogies, then they stress some points, but an analogy will never completely cover the whole gamut of possibilities of what it's an analogy for.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. I was just going to make a comment that devotional service is not so easy. Following strictly for your whole life is not so easy. And, there are rare people like yourself who...
And yourself?
Huh? Well, you're a sannyasi, you've never got entangled in the material life so much. So, not many people are going to be like that. So...
But still we should preach it.
Yeah, no, we can't.
Is it not?
That everybody should be a sannyasi.
No, but still we should preach what is the ideal.
Oh yeah, of course, yeah. But we have to...
But ideal is, excuse me interrupting point by point, but ideal doesn't necessarily have to be a sannyasi, but it's
right.
the spirit of wanting to serve Krishna.
Yeah, of course. But even if people are sometimes engaged in sense gratification, still, by the process of devotion, because everybody, even, grihastas, they may enjoy a little bit of material enjoyment. But it doesn't mean that, they should give up trying to follow as much as they can. Because basically, if they follow as much as they possibly can, and they're very sincere, then Krishna will bring them to the highest platform. So they'll grow out of whatever attachments they have. But it takes time, and people need to be aware, that if you want to be successful, you have to be very determined, because, there's a lot of attractions in the material world, and even if you deviate just a little bit, you should never give up. You should keep chanting 16 rounds a day, keep going to the morning program, keep hearing the philosophy, etc. So even if, like we see examples in the Bhagavatam of great kings who have an attraction for material enjoyment, but they got over it and they became purified and became great devotees. So I think, I'm agreeing with you, we should follow strictly, but at the same time, not everybody can immediately give up sense gratification, and therefore, we have, as well as I do, we have varnashram, and, we need to have our farm communities, get people away from the cities to live more natural lives, and so they can follow better, because as we know, when people get married, they have to get a job, they have to make money, therefore they can't follow so strictly. So therefore, Prabhupada wanted the farm communities so that people didn't have to get a job, they could live simply, they could grow their own food, right?
Yeah.
I have my farm.
I'm fully into that. Let's have farms for devotees.
I have my farm, and I'm not a farmer at all. I just believe in it. But I have a simple life. We milk the cows. We're healthy. We get nice yogurt and paneer, and I've got a lot of different fruit trees, and it's so nice being out in nature. But for the devotees that can't live in a city preaching all the time or going on book distribution all the time, it's more of a gradual process. But at the same time, we have to follow strictly, like you said. All the letters Prabhupada wrote about devotees. Keep following the relative principles, get up early, chant your rounds, all that. Yeah. But not everybody's going to be a pure devotee immediately. It may take more than one life.
Yeah, so you preach like that, and I'll preach the way I'm preaching.
Okay.
And that way we should preach very sympathetically. Do the best you can in your situation. But you also need someone to come around time to time and give you a nudge also, or a jolt. Because otherwise what happens if you say, well, we'll just follow at the level we can, and then automatically you'll become purified. It's not just automatic. We have to be reminded that there is some standard, that some ideal that we have to come to if we're going to go back to Godhead. So that has to be preached also. And the Varnashram system is Grihastha, then Vanaprastha, and for some, sannyas also. So it's not just automatic. I see, or I'm told about some older devotees. They may be even 80 years old, and they're getting married again. It's just, I don't know. In the West, they may just think that's normal, but in India, that would be good. Even among karmis, at least the Hindus. I don't know about the Muslims. The Muslims they can do, but among Hindus, it would be considered very low.
There was, if I could interrupt, sorry, there's a conversation with Prabhupada.
Yeah, and he said an 80-year-old man can marry an 80-year-old girl.
He used to fall asleep when he paid his obeisances, and he got remarried. And to Krishna Maharaj, he said, well, people must have been very surprised. He said, Prabhupada said, well, they didn't, So
yeah, Srila Prabhupada was pointing to the ideal, and he was practical and merciful also.
Yeah.
But we should my point is we should always look to the ideal, because if we look and say, well, Prabhupada was very liberal, and he allowed this and he allowed that, and we take the allowance as the standard, that's a misunderstanding, and then we won't ever get to the ideal.
Yeah, you're right. I agree.
We take the exception as the rule, and then we don't get to the proper standard. So we should, and I don't think we should be preaching that following these principles and the regulative principles and all the program, it's something rare for a few people. Everyone can do it through their life. What is the difficulty? The farm communities will help that. The way of life in the Western world is set up to make you a mudha, and just work. The farm communities will facilitate that. That's one major reason why Srila Prabhupada wanted that. Okay, now
Thank you.
Then, anything else? Okay, so you want to say your thing? Hare Krishna. So I'll move on and you can make your presentation. Hare Krishna.